Why do so many black superheroes have electricity powers? The answers will shock you. Up next on Super Black. Welcome to Super Black. I am your host, Carl Waldron. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to hit that bell on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcasting app. I appreciate you and happy holidays. Not to date this too much, but when I release this episode, it will be closer to the holidays than it is now. So, happy holidays. May you have a safe and happy time with your family and friends. Today, we're talking about black superheroes with electricity powers. Let's rip the Band-Aid off right at the top. Why do so many black superheroes have electricity powers? They just do. There's no definitive reason why. And I think you'd have to ask the writers of original black superheroes like Black Lightning why they gave him lightning powers. And then kind of cross-reference that with later writers. And why did you make Miles Morales have electricity powers? It's all a cascading effect, right? You have one, it's like a snowball rolling down a snowy hill. You have one, and then one inspires two, and then two inspires four, and then four inspires eight, so on and so forth. So I would classify someone like Black Lightning as the first popular black superhero to have electricity powers. And there is like a canon event or a Nexus event that I think helped cascade down so that more black superheroes had electricity powers. And that was the Super Friends. So back in, I think, the 70s, late 70s, Super Friends was a cartoon that had Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And the writers wanted to diversify their cast and bring on more racially diverse superheroes. So they introduced things like the Wonder Twins, who were pretty racially ambiguous, and Apache Chief, who was not ambiguous at all. And they had a character called Black Vulcan. Black Vulcan was created to replace Black Lightning. At the time, DC did not have the rights to use the Black Lightning character. So Hanna-Barbera went about and made their own version of Black Lightning. They changed his name to Black Vulcan. They changed up his suit, but he basically has the exact same powers. They slapped him on the show. Done deal. New black superhero with black in their name and lightning powers. Over the years, they did change his backstory to be a little different than Black Lightning's and create their own character. So much so that if you watch the Harvey Birdman cartoon, which I suggest anyone do, it's a great show from Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. Black Vulcan is on that show, and they make the joke. He says, I don't know why my name is Black Vulcan. I want it to be called Super Volt. And he's like, but they slapped this Black Vulcan. What does it even mean? It was a great moment in that episode. I think it was voiced by Phil Lamar of Voice of the Generation. Go check out our glowing talk on why Phil Lamar is one of the greatest voice actors of our generation. So Black Vulcan was created to replace Black Lightning in the Super Friends, became his own character on his own, and then the horses were loose. They were off to the races. So many black superheroes were inspired by Black Lightning. You have, I mentioned Miles Morales recently, is one of the most popular superheroes of today thanks to the Spider-Verse movies, and I would like to think our episodes on Miles Morales has made his meteoric rise even more quick and widespread. So go check out our episodes on Miles Morales. But when you look at Miles, I think for me, Miles was the catalyst for me to actually write the piece because I did not understand why Miles Morales had electricity powers. He was, for lack of a better term, a carbon copy of Peter Parker. He was a more racially ambiguous Peter Parker. You're like, oh, what can we do to, what if, I think he was spawned by the talks of having Donald Glover play Spider-Man in a movie. And when those, I don't know if the talks broke down or whatever, but that was the inspiration to create Miles Morales, have a black or Afro-American Spider-Man in the mainstream, because before that, Spider-Punk did exist, Hobie Jones, but he wasn't superpowered. I think he was in one frame of a comic. I can't remember. I don't remember the specific comics. But when they were discussing Miles Morales' powers, they gave him this bioelectric shock that they call the Venom Blast, which I also find odd that they would name his move after Spider-Man's greatest villain. But it caught me off guard. It's like, why does Spider-Man need electricity powers? I get you want him to be different than Peter, but electricity powers was such a specific choice for a Spider-Man proxy, right? I still don't really understand it. I don't, because he was bit by another genetically engineered spider and somehow can jolt people. I didn't get it. And it did tie back to, well, he is a black superhero. He needs some sort of electrical powers. And let me be clear, it is a fantastic move. It's very useful, and it does make him one of the strongest versions of Spider-Man there is. He has OP powers. He can go invisible and, shock the hell out of people. That's clutch. Where, as on top of like regular Spider-Man powers, swinging, strength, spider sense, like it's OP. It's an OP power set, but it also is very specific. Like Peter Parker doesn't have electrical based powers. What was the other guy's name? The Scarlet Spider. No other Spider-Man I've seen, even in Across the Spider-Verse, has electricity powers. And again, you can chalk all that up to him being an anomaly, whatever you want. But if you really dig in, it's just another black superhero with electricity powers. So that, after watching the movies, I was like, all right, let me finally look into this a little bit. And again, I didn't find anything specific about why electricity powers are so prevalent among black superheroes. I think it really is writers see something, from their past, and they're like, I would like to create my own superhero. And then they just kind of borrow from what has already been made. And since Black Lightning was at one point one of the only black superheroes in the mainstream, across from Black Panther, people just use that as a reference moving forward. Someone like Static from Milestone Comics is almost a direct homage to Black Lightning. It's just a very young version of Black Lightning. So much so that when DC acquired, I think that's the right term, when they acquired Milestone Comics and all their catalog and heroes, and they created that Young Justice cartoon, which is just beloved by so many fans, I believe they added Static to that list and made Black Lightning his mentor because it synergized so well. I've seen fan films online of people pairing up Static and Black Lightning together. It's just a natural fit. They have such similar power sets and strengths, right? I think Virgil is smarter, maybe. I think he's a child genius or something like that. He's a tech genius. He can build certain things. And he created, what is it? He has like a surfboard or something that he flies around on, where Black Lightning just sort of levitates with electricity. But their power sets are very similar. And I didn't look into whether or not he was directly inspired by Black Lightning, but I'm almost certain that they share such similarities it's hard to deny. And it was made by Dwayne McDuffie and the team over at Milestone, who I believe were just influenced by Black Lightning. They were growing up reading comics and they saw a black superhero with lightning powers and they were like, that's super cool. I want to make that too, even if it was subconscious. But yeah, the long and short of it is it doesn't register as like something negative or even positive. I feel like it just exists. The same way the metal arm trope that I wrote about, or the episode that we did before, I keep saying we, it's just me here, where so many black superheroes or black characters in comics and stuff have metal limbs. They just have replaced limbs, and there's such an exhaustive list of those characters and characters with black in their name and lightning powers. There's just tropes that exist within pop culture that, they are what they are. There's nothing specifically negative or positive about any of them. I went through the exercise of trying to wrap my mind around why so many characters had metal limbs, and I think it was something of, making them less human or emphasizing their inherent strength. I couldn't come up with anything concrete. And when I tackled why so many black superheroes have electricity powers or lightning-based powers, I said, well, does it matter? I don't know if it matters. It is what it is, and it gives us characters like Miles Morales, right? I think electricity powers are dope. They're great. It's a natural element. It's an element of the world that they get to control, wield. Who else has electricity powers? People like Thor, calls down lightning. Storm, I think I mentioned earlier. I can't remember what I said, but Storm is one of the greatest lightning-based, or not even lightning-based, just wielders of electricity and lightning in comic history. She's a goddess, right? She can control the weather. You don't get stronger than that. The electricity powers just make these superheroes stronger, more interesting. And I don't think it's a trope that's ever going to stop. I think it just sort of keeps rolling on. The same way Superman's introduction brought about, capes and underwear on the outside and flights and super strong. Like, Invincible is basically a parody of Superman. The Viltrumites, they're just a bunch of angry Supermen with mustaches, right? The outfits are the same. And it's the same trope, right? We just don't acknowledge it because it's so pervasive. The same way black superheroes with, lightning powers, or black superheroes with black in their name. We've covered quite a few of these tropes. And again, it's part of the zeitgeist at this point. So I'm sorry I didn't have more of a definitive answer. And hey, if you have an answer for why, I'd love to hear it. Maybe I missed something. If you know specifically why so many black superheroes have lightning-based or electricity powers, please leave it in the comments, and I'll do a part 2 and shout you out. And we can have this discussion. But as always, it's all positive, because every new character is a new bit of representation for another child or person who picks up a comic or watches a cartoon or whatever. And if they have electricity-based powers, so be it. But I think one question I'd love to ask listeners right now is, what trope would you like to start? What power set would you like to give a black superhero that could cascade and become its own trope? What would be a different power set? Let me know in the comments. Also, another question, who's your favorite black superhero with lightning powers or electricity powers? I want to know that as well. Put that in the comments. I'd love to get a discussion going. There's so many that I just haven't covered. So drop their names in the chat. Drop their names in the comments, and let's have a discussion about all these incredible black superheroes with lightning-based powers. That's the episode, folks. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. This has been Super Black. Have a wonderful holiday. Full stop.